What if everything you've been taught about strength is only half the truth, and real power comes from mastering what others overlook? Imagine becoming so mentally unshakable that stress, judgment, and chaos no longer control your mind, but sharpen it. In this guide, you'll uncover 9 time-tested Stoic principles that don't just make you smarter, but transform the way you lead, respond, and thrive in silence. In a noisy world full of distractions, expectations, and endless hustle, most people chase productivity and status without ever asking, who am I becoming in the process? This guide isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more. These 9 Stoic keys are drawn from the ancient wisdom of thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, philosophers who faced war, exile, illness, and betrayal with calm and clarity. When practiced deeply, these principles become more than advice. They become armor for the soul. They sharpen your decisions, steady your reactions, and help you navigate modern life with timeless clarity. Each key you'll discover ahead is a bridge between ancient wisdom and your present-day power. The goal isn't to dominate others, but to master yourself so completely that nothing external can throw you off course. Ready to unlock the mindset of the rare few who remain unshaken, no matter the storm? Let's begin. Stop complaining. Turn obstacles into inner ammunition. Let's be honest, it feels good to complain. It validates your frustration, earns nods of sympathy, and creates a false sense of release. But what if that momentary relief is costing you long-term strength? What if every complaint is a tiny leak in the container that holds your resilience? The Stoics weren't interested in venting. They were interested in mastery, especially self-mastery. To them, complaining was not just unproductive, it was dangerous, because every time you complain, you reaffirm a narrative of powerlessness. Marcus Aurelius, facing civil unrest and plague, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." It's not just a quote, it's a battle cry. The moment you face resistance is the moment you're given an invitation to become stronger, clearer, more composed. Here's the shift. Instead of viewing obstacles as reasons to retreat, the Stoic sees them as raw materials. A delay becomes a lesson in patience. A criticism becomes an opportunity to clarify values. A rejection becomes fuel for refinement. Picture 2 professionals facing the same chaos, an impossible deadline, uncooperative colleagues, unclear leadership. One vents endlessly, spiraling into anxiety. The other gets calm. They grab a notebook, triage tasks, and clarify what's actually in their control. Same pressure, different posture. One collapses under the weight of circumstance, the other transforms it into a training ground. Modern micro-practice. The next time you feel like complaining, pause. Name one thing you can do. Act on it. Whether it's breathing deeply, taking a walk, or setting a boundary, any movement toward control breaks the mental pattern of helplessness. Why this works? Neuroscience now echoes what the Stoics knew. Our brains love repetition. If you repeatedly practice agency instead of complaint, you literally rewire your emotional default settings. Over time, you don't just look strong, you become unshakable. Consider this. When you complain, who benefits? Do your words improve the situation? Do they raise the energy of the room? Or do they subtly feed your own sense of defeat? Marcus didn't have Instagram, but he wrote daily, to himself, not to showcase his pain, but to sharpen his response to it. In meditations, he trained his mind with his pen. You can do the same. Replace the habit of externalizing problems with the ritual of internal processing. Reflection. Prompt. What's one recurring complaint in your life? Trace its roots. Ask yourself, Is there any part of this I haven't taken responsibility for? Responsibility doesn't mean blame, it means responsibility, your capacity to choose a wiser path. Stoic reminder, a complaint is a whisper that you've forgotten your own power. Let your obstacles remind you, not of what's wrong, but of what you're capable of facing and rising through. Resist the urge to unload. Train the reflex to transform, because the moment you stop complaining is the moment you start building. Protect your inner world. Guard your secrets like treasure. Imagine standing in front of a bonfire, holding a delicate seedling in your hands. Would you toss it into the flames or shield it until it grows strong enough to withstand the world? That seedling is your dream, your idea, your inner voice. And the fire, that's the noise, judgment, and misunderstanding of the external world. We live in an era where privacy feels optional and transparency is praised as a virtue. But the Stoics remind us, not everything sacred must be seen. Some things gain power in the dark, in silence, in your inner sanctum. Epictetus once said, "Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words." This isn't repression, it's refined discernment. It's not about hiding who you are, but honoring the stages of becoming. Why protecting your inner world is an act of emotional wisdom. New intentions are fragile. The wrong feedback too early can knock them off course. Not everyone deserves access to your goals, wounds, or plans. There is a sacred power in doing the work before showing the result. Social media trains us to broadcast our beginnings, to announce resolutions before results. But when we share too soon, we unintentionally give away momentum. We invite judgment before clarity is formed. The Stoic doesn't suppress their journey. They cultivate it privately until it's strong enough to walk on its own. Real-world example. You decide to switch careers, pursue a new creative path, or start over in a relationship. The impulse is to tell the world, to post, to proclaim, to explain. But wisdom whispers, not yet. Build quietly. Nourish the decision. Let your results introduce you. Try this challenge. For the next 7 days, pick one deeply meaningful area of your life and go completely silent about it. No sharing, no hinting, no subtle signaling. Watch how this internal containment fuels your clarity and sharpens your focus. Deeper insight. Psychologists call this phenomenon a premature sense of accomplishment. When you talk about a goal, your brain gets a reward before the work is done. You trick yourself into feeling finished. The Stoic avoids this trap by keeping energy aligned with action, not applause. This is about more than productivity. It's about protecting your power. The more sacred your inner world becomes, the less you rely on external validation. You begin to recognize your life as a temple, not a stage. Reflection. Prompt. What are you sharing too early? What part of your life needs less exposure and more incubation? What would happen if you gave yourself full permission to grow without announcement, without performance, without noise? Stoic reminder. Silence isn't secrecy, it's sovereignty. The more you hold within, the more grounded you become. When it's time to speak, your words won't be guesses. They'll be echoes of lived experience. Let your actions speak. Master the quiet strength of humility. In a world that glorifies the loudest voice, the flashiest success story, and the most viral moment, the Stoic walks a different path. One paved with quiet confidence, inner strength, and unwavering humility. We are conditioned to announce everything, our goals, our progress, our wins. But ancient wisdom, echoed by modern psychology, reminds us that real power doesn't boast, it builds. True accomplishment doesn't need marketing, it becomes self-evident. Seneca once wrote, Don't regard yourself as distinguished unless your life and habits show it. This wasn't just moral advice. It was a philosophy of focus. When your energy goes into showing off, it drains from showing up. Why boasting backfires? It exposes your desire for approval, not progress. It ties your self-worth to external applause, which is fleeting and fickle. It interrupts momentum by creating the illusion that the journey is complete. There's even a term for this in psychology: social reality substitution. When you talk about a goal or achievement, your brain gets rewarded as if you've already done it. But the Stoic doesn't chase that dopamine hit. They delay it. They store that energy in silence and spend it in action. Think of this. Who do you admire more? The person who posts every workout, every win, every hustle, or the one who simply changes, evolves, succeeds without announcement? The latter commands respect not by seeking it, but by embodying it. Real-life reflection. Picture two colleagues. One constantly updates everyone on their productivity, their future promotion, their new habits. The other simply works, refines, delivers. Guess who gets promoted faster? Guess who people trust more? Your practice. The next time you achieve something, big or small, pause. Resist the urge to broadcast it. Ask yourself, can this win live quietly within me and still make me stronger? If the answer is yes, you've crossed a threshold of maturity few reach. Daily challenge. Spend 48 hours without self-promotion. No humble brags, no mentions of achievements, no subtle nudges. Just be. Observe how that space shifts your energy. See how much more focused, grounded, and clear you become. Epictetus said it clearly. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because improvement isn't for show, it's for substance. And those willing to appear small in the short term often grow far taller in the long run. Reflection. Prompt. In what areas of life are you trying to prove yourself? What would happen if you simply focused on becoming, not being seen? Perspective shift. Every time you choose quiet execution over public validation, you're building the muscle of self-trust. You no longer rely on applause to measure your worth. You become the source of your own affirmation. Stoic reminder. If your greatness must be explained, it's not yet embodied. Real power is quiet. It enters the room without noise and leaves a legacy in its wake. Strategic silence. The power of being unpredictable. In a world addicted to expression, where thoughts become posts and emotions become tweets, silence is not absence, it's strategy. We often mistake talking for power, but the Stoic knows, the less you reveal, the more you retain. In a marketplace of noise, clarity is currency, and silence, it's leverage. Epictetus taught, let silence be your shield. The Stoics believed that restraint wasn't suppression, it was elevation. Strategic silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you choose when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. Why strategic silence builds real power? It protects your energy from dilution by meaningless dialogue. It keeps your intentions private and your progress sacred. It makes your presence more potent because your words carry weight. Think of a chess master. They don't narrate their strategy. They observe, wait, and move with quiet intention. That's the Stoic mindset. Not loud, not obvious, but effective beyond measure. Modern-day example. Picture a heated meeting. Everyone is talking over each other, eager to be heard. But one person stays quiet, observing. When they finally speak, the room listens. Not because they raise their voice, but because they raise their standard. That's the power of the quiet one. Micro practice. This week, in a conversation or social interaction, pause before responding. Let silence hang. See what it reveals about others, about yourself. Notice how often silence leads to truth. Mental discipline. Silence builds unpredictability. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. If people always know your next move, you become controllable. But when you withhold, you confuse, you disarm, you lead. Even in nature, the quiet animals are the most dangerous. Lions don't roar before the hunt. The Stoic doesn't explain their power, they demonstrate it. Try this challenge. For the next 24 hours, speak only when necessary. Let your body language, eye contact, and calm presence do the talking. Observe how people treat you. You may be surprised at how silence changes your influence. Deeper insight. Strategic silence is not about withholding love, truth, or care. It's about filtering out noise so that when you do speak, your words create impact. Not every emotion needs a voice. Not every plan needs a witness. Reflection. Prompt. Where in your life are you over-explaining, over-sharing, over-justifying? What would happen if you said less but meant more? Stoic reminder. You don't have to fill every silence. You don't have to explain every move. The more you hold, the more you hone. And in a world that's always broadcasting, the quiet one often becomes the most powerful signal in the room. Speak no ill. Elevate through integrity, not gossip. Words are powerful. They can build trust or tear it down, heal wounds or deepen them. In a society driven by quick judgments, hot takes, and whispered conversations behind closed doors, choosing not to speak ill of others is one of the most radical and stoic acts of strength. It's tempting, isn't it, to participate in that small joke at someone else's expense, to nod in agreement when a colleague criticizes a friend. It's subtle. It feels harmless. But every time we do it, we chip away at something sacred, our own integrity. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time moralizing others. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." It's not about correcting others, it's about correcting ourselves. Why the Stoic avoids gossip and criticism. It wastes energy that could be used for self-mastery. It feeds a reactive mind, making you easily provoked and emotionally unstable. It anchors you in comparison, envy, and judgment, robbing you of inner peace. Deeper insight. When you gossip, you don't just reveal what you think of others. You reveal how insecure you feel about yourself. The need to tear others down usually stems from a fear that we're not enough. The Stoic doesn't deny these feelings, but they don't let them drive their speech. Modern scenario. Think about the break room at work, the group chat, the casual dinner conversation. How often do they pivot towards someone who isn't in the room? What would happen if you didn't participate? Or better yet, what if you gently redirected the topic to something uplifting? Try this challenge. For the next 3 days, commit to zero negative speech, no sarcasm, no passive jabs, no criticism of those not present. If the urge arises, pause and ask, what am I deflecting in myself by saying this? That moment of self-inquiry can be more transformative than 1,000 surface-level affirmations. Why this builds emotional strength. Gossip provides momentary relief, but long-term erosion. Integrity, by contrast, builds slowly and silently. It makes you magnetic. People may not say it out loud, but they'll feel safer around you. Trusted, respected. Seneca once advised that the wise man concerns himself with his own character, not that of others. You are your only domain of control. Why waste that precious power projecting judgment where it has no influence? Reflection. Prompt. When was the last time you spoke about someone in a way that didn't honor your highest self? What triggered it? And how might you respond differently next time? Honor Stoic reminder. The path to greatness isn't paved with clever takedowns or witty insults. It's built in silence, in moments when you could have judged, but chose to rise instead. When in doubt, let your silence reflect your strength. Let your restraint reveal your character. Because the person who guards their tongue guards their soul. Do good quietly. Let kindness be its own reward. In today's hyper-visible world, where even acts of compassion are measured in likes and retweets, doing good without broadcasting it is nothing short of revolutionary. We've been conditioned to associate kindness with recognition. Post your donation, share your volunteer story, announce your good deed. But the Stoic sees through the illusion. When kindness becomes performance, it loses its purity. Seneca wisely said, "When you do good, let it be your joy, not your boast." For the Stoic, the act itself is the reward. The benefit lies in aligning with virtue, not in impressing others. Why quiet generosity strengthens character. It purifies intention. The deed becomes about doing right, not being seen doing right. It detaches your self-worth from praise, allowing you to live from principle rather than popularity. It builds humility, which is the foundation of lasting strength. Modern parallel. Imagine two people donating to a cause. One posts about it immediately, gathering praise and admiration. The other says nothing, feels no need to. Their reward is private, but deeper. The first seeks applause. The second seeks alignment. Who do you think sleeps more peacefully? Deeper insight. When you seek public validation for kindness, you turn a sacred act into a transaction. But when you give without witnesses, you reaffirm something sacred, that your values do not depend on the world's recognition. You live for something higher. There is profound power in doing something good that no one will ever know about, because in that moment, you become your own witness, and often, that's the only one you need. Challenge. This week, perform 2 acts of kindness. Help someone. Give something. Encourage, but tell no one. Write it down privately. Reflect on how it felt to do good without external reward. Extended reflection. What kind of person are you when no one is watching? Would you still act with generosity, grace, and principle if no one ever found out? What if the most powerful acts of your life were invisible to everyone but you? In a culture that often confuses visibility with value, the Stoic stands firm. The greatest virtue needs no audience. It lives in the shadows. It shapes you in silence. Practical application. When you're tempted to post a kind act, pause. Ask, who am I doing this for? If the answer includes the words validation or recognition, redirect that energy inward. Trust that the act has already made its impact. Seneca didn't seek fame for his wisdom. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for followers. They wrote, acted, and lived for integrity, knowing that the truest power lives in what you do when no one is applauding. Stoic reminder. Let your goodness echo in your own soul. Let your legacy be built from moments no one saw, but you never forgot. That's not just stoicism. That's virtue in its highest form. Guard your vulnerabilities. Heal in silence, not in display. We live in a time where vulnerability is encouraged, praised even, and in many ways that's a step forward. But the Stoics offer a crucial distinction. Vulnerability is not the same as exposure. Healing is sacred, and sacred things require protection. When we display our wounds too soon, before they've scabbed over, before we've even made sense of them, we risk turning something deeply personal into something prematurely public. Why Stoics guard their inner healing. Unprocessed pain shared too early invites pity instead of empowerment. It opens the door to misinterpretation, judgment, or even manipulation. And most of all, it deprives us of solitude, the space where real integration happens. Epictetus warned, "Don't explain yourself to everyone. Not everyone is worthy of your explanation. Not every friend, follower, or stranger on the internet deserves access to your inner sanctum. Your pain is not for their entertainment, it's for your transformation." Consider this. Think back to a time you shared your struggle too soon, with someone unready to hold it, or in an environment that lacked care. Did it bring relief, or did it amplify your confusion, adding another layer of vulnerability, one born of exposure, not expression? The Stoic doesn't suppress their emotions. They observe them. They study their origins. They learn from them. But they don't throw them into the crowd hoping for resolution. They go inward. They let time metabolize what intensity cannot. Modern parallel. Social media invites us to narrate our pain in real time. We're told it's brave. But what's braver really, broadcasting a wound as it bleeds, or tending to it in private until it scars with wisdom? The latter creates resilience. The former often creates cycles of attention that mimic healing but never allow it. Your practice. When emotional pain surfaces, grief, shame, rejection, anxiety, resist the urge to immediately speak it aloud. Instead, journal it. Sit with it. Let it breathe in the quiet. Ask, what is this trying to teach me before I tell the world about it? Reflection. Prompt. In what areas of your life have you mistaken exposure for empowerment? Where might your healing deepen if you gave yourself more time, more space, and fewer spectators? Deep wisdom. Not all pain must be witnessed to be valid. Some of the most profound transformations occur behind closed doors, when no one sees your tears, but you emerge clearer, stronger, and whole. You don't owe your healing to anyone, and sometimes the strength you seek is already forming in the stillness, waiting for you to stop performing pain and start understanding it. Stoic reminder. Real resilience isn't loud. It's choosing to carry your pain with quiet dignity. Let it teach you before you explain it. Let it make you whole before it becomes a story. That's not hiding. That's honoring the process of becoming. Nurture your dreams in silence. Protect the seed before it sprouts. Every dream begins as a seed, delicate, uncertain, full of potential yet vulnerable to wind, criticism, and neglect. The Stoic knows that to protect the vision, you must first protect its space, and that space is often silence. We live in a world that pressures us to share everything, goals, intentions, the next big thing. It feels empowering to announce, but announcing is not becoming. The Stoic understands this paradox. The more you talk about a dream, the less energy you have to build it. Seneca wrote, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach, but they must be cultivated, not advertised." Why early exposure weakens ambition? It gives you the illusion of accomplishment before anything is built. It invites unnecessary opinions that confuse or discourage. It tempts you to perform the dream rather than pursue it. Psychologists call this the intention-behavior gap. Talking about a goal tricks the brain into believing you've already done the work. But progress doesn't happen in likes or affirmations. It happens in solitude, sweat, and sustained effort. Real-life analogy. Picture a painter sketching a masterpiece. If they show it too early, half-finished, undefined, they risk discouragement or misguided advice. But if they paint in solitude, protected from opinion, they can finish the work on their own terms. And when it's ready, it will speak for itself. Modern application. Whether it's launching a business, changing careers, or writing a book, resist the urge to announce it. Tell no one. Tend to it in silence. Let action be your ritual. Let consistency be your proof. Practice challenge. For the next 30 days, pick one meaningful dream. Share it with no one, not even hints. Channel all energy into building, not telling. Track your progress privately. Watch how your momentum deepens. Reflection. Prompt. What dream have you shared too soon, and what impact did that have? What might happen if you gave your next vision time to grow in quiet? Are you building or broadcasting? The Stoics believe that internal work comes first, that only when the foundation is unshakable do you reveal the structure, because when you rush to unveil what hasn't matured, you risk others shaping it before you do. Wisdom from Marcus Aurelius. He never published his journal. He wrote to himself, not to impress, but to understand. That's the Stoic way. Build your philosophy, your practice, your vision for you. Let others witness it only when it's complete. Stoic reminder. Not every dream is meant for public light yet. Tend it in silence. Protect it from noise. And when it blooms, it will be undeniable. Not because you announced it, but because you embodied it. Embrace solitude. Find strength in your own company. In a world obsessed with connection, where every silence is seen as awkward and every moment must be shared, choosing solitude is a bold and powerful act. The Stoics didn't fear solitude. They revered it, because solitude is where masks drop. It's where you confront the truth of who you are, without distraction, without performance, without applause. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by duty and chaos, still found time each day to retreat within. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." In that sentence lies the secret of emotional clarity. Your truest strength isn't found in the noise. It's found in the stillness you create. Why solitude matters more than ever. It's the only place where no one else's opinions, expectations, or judgments can reach you. It forces you to listen to your own voice, raw, honest, and unfiltered. It builds self-trust, which is the foundation of lasting resilience. Modern misunderstanding. Today, solitude is often mistaken for sadness, but the truth is, many are terrified of solitude because it requires inner honesty. When we're alone, distractions disappear, and what remains is often uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the doorway to awareness. Daily practice. Set aside 15 to 30 minutes each day to be alone. No phone, no music, no scrolling, just silence, just you. Reflect with intention. Ask yourself, what thoughts keep resurfacing? What emotions am I avoiding? What part of me have I been neglecting? Solitude becomes a mirror, not a punishment. You begin to notice patterns, the way you talk to yourself, the fears you pretend don't exist, the longings you've buried under busyness. And in noticing, you begin to reclaim your agency. Example. Think of the most significant decisions in your life. Career changes, endings, breakthroughs. Chances are they weren't made in a crowded room. They were born in moments of stillness. That's not a coincidence. That's clarity rising from solitude. Challenge this week. Take yourself on a silent walk. Leave your headphones at home. No destination. Just walk and listen to the world and to yourself. Notice how your thoughts slow down. Notice what surfaces. That voice within, that's who you're becoming. Deeper insight. External validation fades, but the peace you build within, that's permanent. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop fearing loss, rejection, or loneliness. You realize you were never really alone. You just hadn't fully met yourself yet. Seneca once said, "A man is never less alone than when he is alone." Because solitude, when embraced with awareness, becomes sanctuary, not suffering. Stoic reminder, you are your most consistent companion. Train yourself to find stillness in your own soul. Let solitude sharpen you. Let silence remind you of your strength. Because the deepest confidence isn't shouted, it's cultivated in quiet. Final reflection, don't just read. Live this. You've just explored 9 timeless Stoic principles, not as abstract philosophy, but as tools for real transformation. Now the real question is, will you live them? Stoicism isn't something you perform, it's something you embody, quietly, daily, especially when no one's watching. These 9 keys are invitations to live with more discipline, more depth, and more dignity. When practiced consistently, they sharpen your thinking, strengthen your emotions, and elevate your presence in every room you enter. Now ask yourself, which of these 9 lessons challenges you most right now? Where are you leaking energy through words, emotions, or overexposure? What would it look like to live one full day like a Stoic, clear, focused, and still? Start there and return often. A Stoicism is not a finish line. It's a lifelong rhythm. Remember, Stoicism isn't about appearing strong. It's about becoming unshakable from the inside out. Final reflection, don't just read, live this. You've now walked through 9 Stoic lessons, not as quotes to admire, but as disciplines to embody. This journey wasn't about collecting ideas, it was about confrontation with your habits, your reactions, your ego. The Stoics didn't write to impress, they wrote to survive, to reflect, to refine themselves against the fires of life. And you've just been given the same forge. The question is, will you use it? These 9 principles are your armor and compass. In a chaotic world, they center you. In moments of weakness, they strengthen you. In times of noise, they return you to silence. But only if you live them, not occasionally, but deliberately. Now ask yourself with brutal honesty, which lesson pierced you the most, and why? Where are you still outsourcing your power to others? What truth did you quietly resist, even as you read it? Growth doesn't begin with mastery. It begins with a decision to stop pretending and start practicing, to stop explaining and start embodying. And that's where the Stoic path truly begins. Not in understanding, but in action. You don't need a perfect day. You need an intentional one. You don't need to fix everything. You need to commit to one small act of wisdom, silence, or restraint, and do it again tomorrow. This is your moment. Begin, not with words, with discipline. 30-day Stoic application plan, a daily path to strength and stillness. Week 1, inner awareness. Building your baseline. Day 1, identify what's in your control versus what's not. Make a 2-column list. Burn the right side. Day 2, catch yourself before a complaint. Redirect that energy into action or gratitude. Day 3, reflect on an emotional trigger. What story do you tell yourself about it? Rewrite it. Day 4, practice the inner pause. Count to 5 before reacting to anything emotionally charged. Day 5, journal one insecurity you usually hide. Accept it. Name one way it has strengthened you. Day 6 to 7, observe your energy. Who drains it? What topics waste it? Begin pruning. Week 2, silence is power, the practice of restraint. Day 8, choose a goal, tell no one, let it grow privately. Day 9, do something generous with no trace, no hint, no credit. Day 10, stay silent in a moment you'd normally fill with opinion. Watch what unfolds. Day 11, watch a heated conversation without taking sides. Just observe. Learn from the chaos. Days 12 to 13, begin journaling nightly. No filters, just raw truth for yourself alone. Day 14, spend a full hour alone without devices. Reflect on what your inner voice sounds like. Week 3, emotional mastery, training your response. Day 15, reflect on the last time you overreacted. What value was being threatened? Day 16, list your top 5 values. Reflect on how well you've lived them this week. Day 17, practice non-reactivity. Let others vent. You stay rooted. Day 18, watch yourself in discomfort. What do you reach for? How do you soothe? Days 19 to 20, meditate on loss, not to suffer but to sharpen presence. Day 21, say less, mean more. Speak only what is essential today. Week 4, living Stoic virtue, the visible shift. Day 22, teach someone a Stoic insight. See how it changes them and you. Day 23, declutter a space. Notice the mental clarity it creates. Day 24, reconcile silently with someone who hurt you. No text, just release. Day 25, revisit day 1. What's changed about your sense of control? Day 26 to 27, repeat the hardest lesson. You're not done until it's instinct. Day 28 to 29, write a 3-line Stoic code for your life. Tape it where you'll see it daily. Day 30, reflect. Who are you now? Who were you 30 days ago? Sit with the difference. Stoic conclusion, strength isn't loud, it's disciplined, it's consistent, and it's yours now, if you choose to live it. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate your support. Stay strong, stay mindful, and see you in the next one.